Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Simon from Scar Illustration, and I hope you're keeping well. Today I'm going to talk about how I start most of my paintings. As this topic is something that I could talk about at length, I decided to split the video into 3 parts so as to make it a bit easier to digest. Let's dive in. The first thing that I always do, unless I'm just sketching for fun, is to figure out what I'm going to paint. There are many ways to come up with great ideas for paintings, and my typical go-tos for inspiration are things like movies, books, comics, graphic novels, other artists' work, music, sketching, dreams, and word stacks. Word stacks are simply stacks of words that are associated with the subject you'd like to paint, which you then make connections to form new ideas. So first off, form a basic idea in your mind. Next, jot down 2 to 3 headings for the most important aspects of your idea. Under those, write down related words, and then draw bridges or connections between the words to create new ideas. Once I have a basic idea, the next step is to start planning out the painting. And for me, that means creating thumbnails, and lots of them. Thumbnails are small, quick, and simple sketches that show the basic idea with minimal details. Using this method allows me to explore many ideas quickly, instead of just settling on the first idea or perhaps one that I may have used in the past. When working on thumbnails, I keep in mind what the focal points are, the composition, and how everything fits together. I don't get stuck into any details, as this will only slow down the process and the momentum. As you can see, I'm now copying thumbnails and trying out different things such as moving the legs and repositioning the sword. I wanted to see if any of these ideas will work better in a horizontal or landscape format, but I ended up going back to the original vertical format as I felt it worked better. Still trying to get the best possible pose by changing the positioning of the legs and the head of the character. For this set of thumbnails, I opted to work both digitally and traditionally to see if I could get a little closer to what I had in my mind. Sometimes changing up the medium will give your brain a different perspective. Once I have a few that I think have legs, usually between 3 to 5, I'll clean them up and move on to some simple color studies. For the color studies, I like to work a little larger, so I can see how well the thumbnails work at a different size and to make it a bit easier for me to see what's going on. When I'm creating these, I like to keep in mind things such as the mood, the environment, time of day, color combinations, the values, the lights and the darks, and the silhouettes. I chose this particular thumbnail first as I thought it was the strongest of the bunch. For this painting, I envisaged a foreboding feel overall, and so I decided to go with a dark and muted palette. The composition for this turned out to be a classic triangular shape, and to enhance the main focal point, I placed a moon behind the head of the main character. I also decided to add some water to the bottom of the painting for more visual interest and to balance the painting overall. For the second thumbnail, I opted for a similar color scheme, but a completely different setting. I thought that the background could be either carved stone or metal. As well as that, I wanted to have a cool overhead light to counterbalance the warm browns and beiges and introduce a sense of mystery to the character. The third thumbnail is virtually the same as the second, with a slight change to the pose of the character for added strength. And for the fourth thumbnail, I went with something completely different. In this scene, I see the character as being taken by surprise, trapped, but ready to do whatever it takes to escape. As I began fleshing out this study, more ideas about the character and the setting began to develop in my mind. Oftentimes, I'll come up with a backstory about the character whilst painting. This in turn helps me to figure out what things the character might have on them, how they're dressed, and other such elements. As soon as I'd finished the study, I wrote out details to really help me cement in the main concept behind the piece. As you can see, I've added a number of things about the character, such as double knives, a sword, light body armor, even the color of her hair. I talk about the background and the stained glass window, wall carvings, the possible settings, the lighting, the color scheme, and some of the influences I may look at in order to finish the painting. Here you'll see me adding a few more details to the setting as per the text document. I'm also experimenting with different lighting options at this stage so as to make the painting as interesting as possible. At around this point, I was toying with the idea that the character was somehow a stowaway on a huge ship. As the ship pulls into the harbor of a major city, the character is discovered by chance as she is attempting to escape. But after a bit more thought, I changed the setting to a cathedral of some description. The next stage is to gather the right reference for your painting, which is absolutely crucial in my opinion. It's also the difference, in most cases, between a painting that looks believable to something that looks generic and with details that don't really add up. Every day we subconsciously take in huge amounts of detail and can very quickly spot if something is wrong. Be selective with the reference you use rather than just using any old picture, as the more information you have, the easier it will be to paint. You'll also be spending a lot less time trying to figure things out. For figurative paintings, try to shoot your own reference where possible, to complement any other references that you've found. In this instance, I took some quick reference shots of my wife with my phone with a lighting scenario similar to that of the color study. I also searched online, and I found that the stock photography sites such as Getty Images and Alamy tend to have much better photos to work from. Another great resource is Pexels, where you can download high-res photos to use as reference materials. Having the right reference is important, but don't put all of your trust into your reference material or be a slave to it. In the end, it's simply there to give you more information. Trust your own instincts on what should and shouldn't be used in the final painting. The next stage is to tackle the final sketch. After sketching the main character, using my own reference and some that I sourced online, I'm now working out how the window will look. The first window frame treatment didn't really feel right in the environment, so I quickly tried another idea which I felt worked much better. I then went and added a base color underneath the character sketch so as to differentiate it from the background and to make it easier to place the window. I'll also use this as a basis for painting the main character in the next stage of the painting. Next, I set about adding some more details to the background wall. As the setting was now to be a cathedral, I wanted to have a somewhat ornate wall with carved figures that complemented the scene. Once I'd finished the first side, I copied those figures, flipped them, and made adjustments so they look somewhat different from the original set. I flipped the painting to make it easier to paint, and also to see if there were any glaring mistakes that I'd missed. After I'd finished those, I wanted to add some more embellishments to the wall. The first design attempt didn't really work, and so I took a portion of that and created a new pattern. I then decided to even out both sides of the window for a more pleasing look. The design on the bottom of the wall is simply a variation of the pattern by the window. Finally, I'm now making some tweaks to the main character so as to fit in better with the rest of the sketch. When I created the initial character sketch, I'd completely forgotten to add the decorative cloth hanging from her belt. After I'd completed the cloth embellishment, I decided to add that detail to other areas of outfit for continuity. Once all that had been completed, I then simplified the amount of layers and made sure that the sketch was cohesive as a whole. So there is the finished final sketch, which is now ready for painting. In part 2, I'll be going over the ugly stage of the painting process. Hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Have a good one and keep on painting.